Everybody, welcome back to the True Safety Podcast with Apolonia Rockwell and myself, Seth Silvers. Apolonia, how's your morning going today?
It is going awesome.
Good.
Holy smokes. Again, I'm a week out from having a baby. So I'm just wrapping up all these things at the office, being here this last week. So yeah. A
week out, and we have a lot of amazing podcast conversations that we're recording so that you, our audience, so that you will not have to go on maternity leave, just Apolonia. So we'll continue bringing conversations to you every week. Today, we're going to talk about safety meetings, something that, depending on your position in the company, might be something you really enjoy, and it might be something you dread. On a previous conversation, Apolonia, you shared how one of your bosses was like, Apolonia, do you know how much this safety meeting is costing me?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I would tell him, all right, like, I'm so excited. I'm putting up the flyers, sending out email notifications about my safety meeting. And one of the owners of this company has said, I just want to remind you, Apolonia, for the millionth time, how expensive this safety meeting is for me. It's about a $50,000 meeting. So make it worth it. No pressure.
Yeah.
And I'll always remember that because, that is accurate. Those are the challenges that safety professionals have to realize, that when owners or leadership are putting pressure on safety to be effective and to really communicate ROI, I mean, those are real costs. So
Yeah, absolutely. And, not that every company's safety meeting is 50,000. That was a medium-sized company, but think about every time you're at a meeting, like all those people are getting paid for that hour. And they're also getting, that's an hour that revenue is not being generated. Different things like these are costly. And so what happens most times is you have these very costly safety meetings, and a lot of safety professionals, they'll find some old PowerPoint online that has bullet points and
paragraphs
or paragraphs. And you'll kind of run through, the OSHA standard that you want to cover that week. And, maybe you have donuts and coffee so that people are excited about it. But the safety meeting sucks. Like most safety meetings are not good. And that's just the truth of it. And so Apolonia, let's first talk about what makes a bad safety meeting. What makes a safety meeting that your boss would be like, oh my gosh, why are we paying $50,000 for this? And then we will talk about what makes a good safety meeting as well.
I'll tell you, the worst safety meeting you can have is if you, as the safety professional, or you're the manager and you're also wearing the safety hat, is one person running that safety meeting. And whether you're the safety professional and you're the only one on the safety team running that program, it's you talking the whole time, or you are a subject matter expert, let's say in one area, and still you're doing all the talking. It doesn't matter what your title role is, even your expertise. If one person's doing all the talking and they feel like they're the know-it-all and they're the grand end all of knowledge on that subject, that is the worst safety meeting that you could have.
Yeah. And I think you have to keep in mind people's attention spans.
Yeah.
Nobody responds well to, 30 minutes of somebody talking at them.
Talking at them. No, just like you said. Yeah. I mean, think about college days, thinking about, you sitting in any seminar, and at what point, when you're sitting in a seminar or a class or a Zoom meeting, that if somebody's doing all the talking, think about yourself. How many minutes into that meeting are you now checked out? Or you're trying to check your phone? And if you can't check your phone, no problem. I'll just mentally check out because I'm so bored out of my mind because this doesn't apply to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Apolonia, you lead the helm at True Safety Services now, and work with a lot of different companies all over the place, but you were a safety professional. Let's hear about some of your biggest safety meeting disasters. I'm sure that even someone like you had some bad ones.
Yeah. I mean, the worst were the ones when I first started in the industry. I mean, holy smokes. I'll never forget having this safety meeting where my boss afterwards just was like, Apolonia, I'm going to need you to record yourself so that way you can see how terrible you are in the view of my eyes. So like, I need you to record it.
And we will link those recordings in the show notes below.
Yeah, we'll link the footage. Oh my gosh, but I'm so grateful for that feedback. But at the time, I mean, hearing that, because as safety professionals, a lot of our insecurities can come from, and oftentimes come from, not being the subject matter expert. That was just something that I had in the back of my mind. Again, I was, and this goes for a lot of people. You can't be a jack of all trades. You can't be the best welder and roustabout and truck driver and electrical specialist. So you can't be the subject matter expert in everything that you're going to be talking about. And so when you're out there, so then safety professionals are thinking, okay, well then how do I cover these OSHA basics? It's my job as a safety professional to cover these. I don't have experience doing all these things. How do I talk about it and sound knowledgeable, sound like I know what I'm talking about, and how do I have examples, right? So that's the challenge for safety professionals. And so I remember in that meeting, I was just so new. And in that meeting, I was just talking at all the employees, reading off of a PowerPoint that I wasn't really prepared for. And it was a disaster. My boss, even at that time, probably reminded me that this meeting was a waste and it's costly. So I was like, all right, what do I do? I'm back to the drawing board. So, I mean, but again, that's the worst safety meetings. One person being the know all and there's no engagement. That's the worst. Yeah.
What were some adjustments that you made?
So right away, I was like, all right, I had the self-awareness that I wasn't going to be the jack of all trades, but how do I get these guys to talk? And they're the subject matter experts all in the room right in front of me. So how do I facilitate meaningful conversation where people will learn from each other, and the newest employee will learn from the guy or gal who's been there for 20 years, who's been driving for that amount of time, and he'd be able or she'd be able to share their insight on some of the hazards that they've seen on the road. And that would help a new driver. I'll never be able to provide that insight, but the people in the classroom always can. So I was like, okay. So the next meeting, some adjustments were coming up with, we'd have one topic, and let's say it's about winterization. Let's talk about winter hazards. So how do you get your company ready? How do you winterize equipment? How do you get prepared for the up and coming months that we were going to have at the last quarter? So what I did was I got everybody that was in a specific division all together. So I'd get the drivers together, the roustabout together, the welding shop together. And then those employees, I would have just discussion points of what did we see last year? What are some incidents or hazards that this company experienced last year, and just tell us about those. So that was great for newcomers because they're going to face those exact hazards. And the employees that were there loved to talk about those things, about what they saw, what they felt. The drivers, Seth, were like, these are the roads. These are the exact intersections where I almost lost my life last year, or, had somebody else. They're the driver. They're able to say, like, these are the hot spots. I'll tell you right now, this is where I've almost got into an incident. People in the shop were able to say, hey, this is exactly what I saw, and here's what we did about it. So having discussion points, especially per division, it was night and day safety meeting.
Well, yeah. And taking the pressure off of yourself to feel like you have to be the expert in everything, and realizing there's probably people that you're talking at in your safety meetings that probably have some really valuable experiences. They probably really know, like, they're the ones that are on the ground. So I think a lot of safety professionals just need to get that pressure off of their shoulders, where you realize you don't have to be, You don't have to be the pro in everything. It
Mm-hmm.
almost shifts your role to more of a coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
where you're almost more like coordinating and like finding, who has the expertise, who can I bring in, who can I get to talk about that does have the expertise. Talk to me about that shift of shifting that perspective to where you're taking that pressure off of your shoulders to have all of the answers.
That was it. That pressure, that's exactly how I would describe it. And to be completely transparent, I was just so nervous starting as a safety professional and being in front of these subject matter experts. I mean, I would wake up with so much anxiety, so much just tension and stress in my body. Like I would sometimes I would physically get sick to have these meetings because there was so much pressure for me to have an amazing meeting, a boss that's like, you better make it effing worth our time. So I'm like, how in the world does that happen? And I just physically remember that stress being lifted off of me when I was like, I'm the facilitator. And you know what I am? I'm the safety expert. It's my job to present what's federally required through OSHA. So I'm there to back up, what we're stating through regulations. Are we on track, off track with what we're saying here? That's what I could provide. But
Right.
more than that and beyond that, because that's just basic. That's just OSHA basic regulations. We're trying to go above and beyond that. What applies to these guys and girls that are actually doing the work? And that's where the facilitation comes from. And like you said, you're shifting the role from the doer to the coordinator. And you have to make that switch right now today, if you haven't already, if you're going to be effective, whether it's in the safety training space, safety meeting space, or you're out in the field. You have to facilitate healthy conversation around hazards, around what's actually going on out there, because you're not going to know. You're not out there every single day. They do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a huge shift. And I think if everybody gets one takeaway from this episode, like shift towards more of a coordinator, facilitator, like realize that you don't have to be the expert in all of the things. And part of a good safety meeting is not just it's going to be you bringing in other people or other resources or breaking it up and realizing like your team, probably you leveraging the experiences that your team has and giving them an opportunity to share and giving them an opportunity to share their experience, their stories, what they see. That's going to make that one thing is going to make a huge shift, and it's going to take some of the pressure off of you.
Yeah. And I'll say this too, that was those are some takeaways today, is getting discussion points, breaking up everyone in a group. One discussion point being, what did we experience last year? How do we combat that? Or who has seen this particular hazard? And let's speak about that in the group. And that's one way to approach it. But another way is, people are entering your company that are newer, that did the same thing for another company, right? So they're solids control experts, not at this company, but somewhere else. A truck driver or a roustabout hand or a rig hand or someone in the construction world, a roofer. And so no matter what company they're at, they're able to share, this is what I've seen. This is my story, like you said. And they're able to share, hey, these are the hazards that we saw. This is how we fixed it. Or this is what did happen on our job site. That way, someone can be like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that happening to me. That's why it's so important to wear my fall protection. Like I saw somebody in the group, saw somebody die. Here's how it happened.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's more impact than you could ever bring to the table. So,
right.
That's the trick. That's the takeaway today.
Yeah. And through that, you can kind of break up a safety meeting into like 5 to 7 minute segments instead of you having to, think of, okay, what am I going to say for 30 minutes or 50 minutes? You don't want to be talking.
You don't want to be talking. I think if there was a winning formula, not putting too much thought into this and just talking out loud, a winning formula would be to have a 5 to 10 minute intro where you're talking about maybe what what's maybe a recap of what happened this last month? What are some hazards that came through? Any incidences, any positive recognitions, those types of things. That's how you start the meeting. And then we break up into groups and do maybe 2 group activities. And then two group activities, then I would have everybody speak at each group so that they could present their findings, and then you wrap it up. Mm-hmm. So I think that'd be a good...
Yeah, break it up and let people learn from each other. They don't have to learn everything from you. So
yeah, exactly.
Apolonia, this has been great. And we're going to have a couple episodes talking about this, and we're going to bring in some of our own safety professionals to hear what they're doing in safety meetings and in training. So thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Bye.